And I'll actually, if it's okay, I'll start with this one. So when you upload pictures to the forum, um, I don't know what it is, but sometimes they upload and I can get them pretty big, and then sometimes they're just uploaded as the size that they're viewed as. And so I'm sorry this is so small. I can't make it any bigger. So I don't know if you guys know how to change that, but because I love getting to see them a little bit bigger. But anyway, that's beside the point. I love this picture, and I think when it comes to editing and it comes to shooting, um, I think it's great. I think it's a really, really nice image, and I don't have much to say about the editing because I think it's really even and really tastefully done. Um, you know, the corners are really heavily burned, but I mean, that could be your style, and that's something that you love, and so that's not a bad thing. It's just something I wouldn't do, but that's because my style isn't that way. So I can't critique that, I don't think. The one thing I would say about this image is if they were in front of the light post, it would be a totally different image. Right now, the light post looks as if it's the subject and they're secondary, because it's in the foreground, and it's not like, sometimes you can shoot through a tree branch, and so the tree branch is in the foreground, but it's blurry, and they're the subject. Well, because of the whole light post is in the foreground and you can see all of it, it's almost like it's a picture of a light post and they're kind of behind it. So I mean, I know that seems silly that a little change like that would make such a big difference, but I really think it would. I think even if her dress just came in front of a light post, so it was really obvious that they were the center of attention, I think that would make a huge, huge difference. And but overall, I mean, that's a beautiful shot. It's canvas worthy. I really like it. So I think it's great. I think you did a wonderful job editing, and that's the only thing I would change about that. So let's go to this one. Um, Really pretty shot. It's really hard to critique sometimes shots that are candid because you don't have control, over all of it. You don't have control over all these different people taking pictures and whose arms are where. And so for this situation, I think you did a great job capturing emotion, and capturing them and their joy. So that on that end of it, it's awesome. You also can't control where the bubbles are, and I understand that. So I think the only thing I would look into is maybe a little bit of straightening, just a little bit. I know this is blurry, and the reason I noticed that is because I always look at the back, like the shadows of the wall, and that's how I can tell if it's a crooked picture or not. And so sometimes I just crop it out so there's less distraction. And when it comes to cropping in general, this woman's jacket is really, really noticeable. And so maybe it would be better to crop her out just a little bit, just to get that distraction out of there. And so instead, you're focused mainly on the couple. And something else just to think about is, the amount of darks. So right now I know you probably edited and darkened the shadows a little bit. And this is something I've been telling a lot of people is I like to lighten the darks just a little bit. And what happens there is that you start to get a little bit of detail back in the blacks. So when it's normally like that, that's the image you gave me. When you lighten up you just kind of, you keep the pop of the image, but you don't lose so much detail, and the shadows, the dark parts of the image aren't so heavy. So I know it seems like a very simple fix. Let me duplicate this image just so you can see what I did. So this is the image you sent. This is the image that I lightened and cropped a little bit. So I don't know if you can really tell as much as I'm hoping you can, but it's just a little bit, it's not as intense, it's not as contrasty, but if you really like contrast in your images, then I wouldn't worry so much about it. I think that becomes a problem when, if you could see this full res, if you can't see the detail in her hair, it just looks like a black um, blob of blackness on her head because it's so darkened. I think that's where we run into issues. So when you just make sure you don't do too heavy on the darks, just because there's a lot of dark contrast in this shot. But You know, that's also preference. Something you might want to think about for this as well. You know, obviously I cropped it, but another way to take away some of the distraction of what's happening is to make it black and white. This is a great candidate for black and white shot. Because when you make something black and white, sure, it's kind of busy and there's a lot going on, but you take away the distraction of color. So that's something to think about. Let's go to this one. I really wish I could see this beforehand, because I'm not sure how it was composed straight out of camera, because I know you shot it and then cropped it some because it's not a normal crop size. So I tell people this all the time, just to be careful, because if someone was to purchase this and want to purchase a 5x7, they'd have to crop in a little bit, and you have to trust that, you know, they adjust it properly. Same with the 4x6. So sometimes I just recommend people doing a pretty normal size. So obviously this is a good 8x10 size, but that's just one little thing. So mainly the biggest thing I see here is composition. You know, they are filling the whole frame, but there's no lines or direction that draws my eye to the subject. I don't know if that makes sense, but really well composed images have a composition that feels even and allows your eye to flow evenly across the page. And for this one, I think they fill the frame really well. But if you could have their faces here and then the frame go to here, just with her dress blurry in the background, I think that composition would be so much more effective, just because that's what our eyes are trained to like. Right now there's no negative space. It's cropped in right into their faces, and there's no negative space to give our eyes a break. So, you know, for instance, this image, your negative space is up here, and that's why this image is so beautiful, is because it's got great composition and our eyes see the subject, but our eyes don't work super hard when you look at this image, because you've got some negative space that brings you down to them. I hope that doesn't sound like I'm talking a different language, but here there's not any negative space, and it makes the image look kind of busy and not as well composed as your others. So that's something to think about. Another thing is how you edit black and whites. If you want to, I'm really big into, you know, having a consistent style, and so I think it's beneficial when a photographer has one style of black and whites that you love the best and that you're the best at editing. So obviously this has a sepia tone. You know, I edit like that. I edit with no brown in the image when I do black and whites. But maybe you do like browns, and so that's something you want to stick with, and all of your black and whites will look like that. So I just think there's advantages to having a certain style and sticking with it. So I hope this was helpful, and I'm rambling, so I'm going to go. But I can't wait to talk next week. Have a great weekend. Bye.